Hey babe, just trying to see where we at right now. Just want to tell you I love you, and I know you're going through a lot. Well, we both are, but together we are strong. We can fight through this. Just think about it, babe. I love you.
One day, all them bad gon' get in your way. One day, all them bad gon' get in your way.
So you guys, it was maybe a few years ago when I finally understood this song, believe it or not. I believe Erica came out with this song back in 2000. So I was in middle school. I obviously was never in a relationship. I had never experienced heartbreak or none of that. So I didn't know what Bag Lady was. I knew the song, I knew the lyrics, I loved it, but I didn't understand what I was singing, which goes for a lot of the songs and a lot of the music we listened to back in the day when we were young. We didn't know what we was talking about. We didn't know what we were singing, but we liked it. So we just went along with it. So then it's not until you get older that you finally start to understand what these lyrics mean and how it kind of resonates with you depending on the song. Bag Lady was one of those songs that I was like, wow, that's what she was talking about the entire time. And it really set in. So what is a bag lady? What is emotional baggage? It's simply a metaphor that's used to describe unprocessed emotions and things that you experienced in your past. Y'all, I really want to break down emotional baggage, but before we get into the meat of this video, I want to share something with y'all. Check it out. Hey y'all, so I wanted to interrupt this show really quick to tell you guys about my podcast. So a lot of y'all don't know that I have a podcast channel called Out With Trish. And what we do is basically take some much needed time out, whether you're at work or you're having to watch the kids, whatever you're doing throughout your day. I think it's super duper important that we take our time out. So come on over. We're going to be talking about things, mental health, love, relationships, anything that's going to kind of uplift you and help you throughout your day. You can find it over at Out With Trish. So go ahead, hit any of those links in my description below. I'm on Spotify, Google Podcasts, and so much more. We're already 13 episodes in, and it's not too late to join. So go ahead, hit the links below. Now let's get back to the show. So a very important question that I honestly do not ask when I'm dating, that I now have learned that I have to ask this question: are there any unresolved issues from your past relationship? One of the most important questions that I feel like probably isn't asked as often as it needs to be when dating before you get serious with somebody. A lot of us carry around baggage. I'm talking suitcases, and maybe some of us have small luggage, but either way it goes, the baggage we carry from previous relationships that affect us individually, and then they affect us going into a relationship with somebody. We all have baggage. This is true. And I feel like you can never meet someone who has never had baggage, does have baggage, or they've let go of it a little bit, but not completely. And it does have a huge effect on them. Although having baggage from a previous relationship, I think, is completely normal. It is not unheard of. It's something that we all have. I do believe that there are ways that you can deal with emotional baggage, getting rid of it instead of basically ignoring it or suppressing it like it never happened. I really think we can learn some things from how to move forward and how to properly unpack or pack light whenever we are trying to move forward, not just in a relationship, but just moving on with your life, period. There are some negative effects of not properly dealing with your baggage. And one of those things that I think we do whenever we're trying to ignore, we're not ready to face the issues that we had in our previous relationships, is we try to jump back into a relationship too fast. I am guilty of this one, where I was basically trying to run away from the pain that the previous relationship gave to me. So I felt like, well, let me just get to know somebody else as a good distraction so that I really don't have to deal with what I dealt with before. And I also think a lot of what we deal with in our current relationships, if we choose to move forward still carrying that baggage, is a lot of unresolved issues that we had with our ex. There's a lot of triggers of things that our ex might have done that we carry into a current relationship. It just makes things worse for you and that person. So the best thing to do is really sit, unpack, and deal with whatever baggage you have so you can finally move forward, not just with a relationship with somebody else, but with yourself as an individual, which is most important. But first, as we get into this topic, I want to first talk about those things that happen when we choose to keep and hold on to that emotional baggage. So one thing that people who have a lot of emotional baggage will do, and I'm talking about suitcases, pounds and pounds of emotional baggage, what they are good for doing is emotionally distancing themselves. So what that means is anytime they feel themselves getting close to somebody, almost to the point where they feel like they might actually love the person, they immediately cut themselves off and they distance themselves, and it leaves the other person like, okay, what did I say? What did I do? Another thing that you do if you have a lot of emotional baggage is serial dating. This is one that I had to actually read up on to understand that it actually had a word for it. So a serial dater is someone who treats relationships basically like monkey bars. You go from one relationship to the next with little to no time in between, and you can never really stay single, but you can't hold a long-term relationship either. These type of people are very, very emotionally detached, and they run from their issues. They run from any baggage that has been accumulated from relationship to relationship. They basically live in fear of being in love with someone. So instead of having to deal with one person at a time, they hop from one person to the next, and they can never be single. They can never be by themselves. They have to find somebody to be with. You got to watch out for these kind of people. Another thing that happens whenever you're carrying around a lot of emotional baggage is you're very easily paranoid. So you carry on a lot of paranoia, things that happened in your past relationship, a lot of the pain that you still harbor. You have your guard up at all times. You're just waiting for that new person to do something that triggers you, that reminds you of your past relationship. I've kind of had a bit of paranoia before myself because I was carrying around emotional baggage and I was used to the pattern of what I was getting. So if I met someone who could possibly be different, I was kind of paranoid, like, is this real? And that's a for sure sign that you're still carrying around a lot of emotional baggage that you haven't dealt with. And it's best to be by yourself and not to try to get into anything serious. Dealing with that kind of emotional baggage and being paranoid, you do self-sabotage your relationships. You cause a lot of friction and a lot of drama before it even begins. And you self-sabotage it because you feel like this is going to be just like the last relationship, the one before that one, and the one before that one. It'll never get easier. It'll never get any better. And you kind of do the damage before it gets done to you to save yourself some kind of heartache, but it still doesn't really work because at the end of the day, you're still broken. You have major commitment issues. People who carry around this kind of baggage find it very hard to commit to one person. They feel like putting so much into one person, into one relationship when they've done it before and assume that the next one will be just like the last one, if not worse. They have terrible commitment issues. It's hard for them to stay committed to one person. Commitment issues is very real, and it does stem from a lot of baggage from a previous relationship, but not even just relationships. It could be childhood trauma, like anything that you've experienced, feelings that you've never really expressed. You carry that into your adulthood and you have serious commitment issues. One thing that I've learned, you can tell a lot about a person's commitment level by how they are within their personal life. For instance, if you date somebody who can't keep a job, can't stay in one place, they can't commit to an idea. If you ever date somebody who can't commit in their personal life to things, especially keeping a job, 99.9% when you're dating them, they're not going to be able to commit to you either. A lot of times your personal relationship with yourself and your personal life is a reflection of how you might actually be with somebody else. I promise y'all, I probably could have saved myself so much heartache over the years, if I would have paid attention to those types of signs, those types of things are things you have to watch out for, because it may speak up a lot for how he will treat you and how he'll be able to commit or not commit to you. And then another thing that we do when carrying emotional baggage is we always feel the need to compare. You're always comparing your current relationship to your ex. So you're always picking out little things that your ex might have done, and you're putting that onto the current person that you're with. Now, if there are some things that your ex used to do that this current person also does, and it was a red flag, then yes, you need to run. But then there are some things that may not be the same as your ex, but you're kind of doing this compare and contrast thing, and that can really hurt trying to move forward in a potential relationship, especially if you're one who continuously talks about your ex to your current partner. There is nothing worse than hearing about somebody from your past over and over and over again when you're trying to get to know someone new. And that's a for sure sign that you need to put a hold on trying to date and be with anybody else if you're always in comparison of your ex and you always have them on your mind. So now that we've talked about the signs of having emotional baggage and what that looks like, what that means, let's get into what we can do to rid the emotional baggage. How do we do that in order to move forward with ourselves, then to one day be able to get into another relationship? So in talking about how you know you have the emotional baggage is one thing, but how to get rid of it is something completely different. So let's unpack. It's time to unpack the baggage, and here's how you can do it. So in everything, in all things, and as it pertains to relationships and breakups, there is always a lesson in everything that we go through. There's a lesson in the person that we dealt with, and there's a lesson in the timing that it happened in our lives. Look for the lesson. Always look for the lesson in what you're going through, how it can help strengthen you, how it can grow you, certain things that you didn't realize at the time when you were in the relationship. When the blinders finally come off and you're outside of the relationship, look for the lesson. What did this teach me in this relationship? What did it teach me about myself? Not so much the individual that you dealt with, but what did it teach you about yourself? What are some things that you thought you overcame that you kind of really didn't? What are some lessons that you may have had before that have come back around in another relationship that you're trying to learn all over again? Like, what did you miss? Speaking from experience, I definitely missed some lessons that I didn't quite learn. So definitely take a step back and look for the lesson. There's a lesson in every heartbreak. Every type of emotional pain, there's always something that you can take from it to learn. Then you'll also want to acknowledge any part that you had to play in it. It is so easy to point the fingers at your partner and say what he did to you, how he hurt you, all these things that he did. Is really easy to do that. Even with guys dating a girl, you point your finger at her, things that she said, things that she did, all this stuff for reasons why you feel like you did X, Y, and Z. You have to really come into your adulthood basically and acknowledge any part that you had to play in it. What are some things about yourself that you did in the relationship that you don't like? Acknowledge your parts that you had to play in it. Any parts that you may have brought some toxicity that you kind of need to go over. Where is this coming from? Acknowledge your part, and then take what you can to grow from it to make better decisions going forward. And as I have said many times before, stay focused and put the focus back on to yourself. Be mindful of yourself. Practice mindfulness of self. Concentrating on parts of you that you lost, being so wrapped up in this person. You can lose yourself a lot when you're dealing with somebody, especially when it goes south. There's a lot of pieces of you that you can really lose in a person. It's not uncommon. It can happen to all of us. You really can get wrapped up and you lose the sense and the essence of yourself in somebody else. Put a lot of your energy, a lot of what you put into somebody, put that right back into you. If you're not good to yourself, you can be of no good to anybody else. Stay mindful and put a lot of focus back into yourself. Take a break. Take a break. Don't always feel the need to be in a relationship with somebody, to always feel like you gotta have a man or you gotta have a girl. Like, just take a break. And a lot of times when we feel like we need somebody, that stems from something. That stems from some kind of abandonment at some point in your life where you always feel like you have to be with somebody. You cannot be by yourself. Just take a break. Take a breather. You don't always have to be with somebody. You don't always have to have a boyfriend, girlfriend. You don't have to always be in a relationship, especially when you know you have so much about yourself that you need to work on. And I will be honest, it is hard in the beginning when you come out of a relationship to take a break, because a lot of times this is where the baggage comes in. We don't really want to deal with the breakup and the issues that we're left to deal with. So we hurry up and we get back into another relationship to ignore having to unpack. Take a break. It's okay. It's good for your health. It's good for you physically. It's good for you mentally and emotionally. For me, when I got out of a relationship and I didn't want to deal with a lot of what had happened, I did quickly put myself back into another relationship. And to be honest, it only made things worse. Because then in getting to know someone new, you are now taking on new drama, and it does make things worse because now it's another attachment that you've created to somebody versus the one that you're trying to let go of. So it's like a tug of war of emotions, and it's not good. A lot of times people find this one difficult because they don't like to be alone. They don't like who they are by themselves. So if you feel like that within yourself, think of how somebody else will feel being in a relationship with you. Most importantly, I talk about this one all the time. Forgive yourself. Forgive yourself for any parts that you had to play in a breakup and holding on to baggage. Forgive yourself if you stayed too long. The constant tug of war. Should I stay? Should I go? It all starts with self-forgiveness, and to be able to unpack all that emotional baggage that you have. Be willing to forgive yourself. Don't be embarrassed. Don't be ashamed to seek professional support. Especially within my community, we kind of, I don't know where it comes from, but we kind of are embarrassed and ashamed to seek professional counsel. Find a good one that is very patient and they obviously enjoy what they do. But again, if you're not comfortable seeking professional support, talk to somebody that you trust that will pour into you really good advice that will not necessarily pet your wounds, but they'll help for you to find where it is to start to heal. Thank y'all so much for watching. Do like, comment, and subscribe. And of course, subscribe to my podcast. I will be there every week. I do upload at least 2 to 3 times a week. So if you need a little boost, a little encouragement, some positive energy in your day, go ahead and subscribe. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Love y'all. Bye.
One day, all